Good day, learners! Welcome to another amazing discussion. Today, we will be discussing about organic compounds. The chemical compounds of living things are known as organic compounds because of their association with organisms and because they are carbon-containing compounds. Organic compounds, which are the compounds associated with life processes, are the subject matter of organic chemistry. Let us take a look at the pictures below, which are considered organic and which are not. Do you have a clue? Now we will find out what is organic. All of the subjects are considered organic, except the rocks and the house. To a chemist, the term organic describes chemical compounds that contain carbon and other elements such as hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, or phosphorus. For example, sugar was identified as organic. Why is sugar organic? The chemical formula for sugar is C6H12O6. The compound contains carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Sugar is processed from sugarcane. All living organisms contain carbon-based compound, making them organic. At the grocery store, the term organic describes foods raised under specific conditions. For example, beef labeled organic is from cows that were not given antibiotics, growth hormones, or fed animal byproducts. All of the organisms pictured are alive and composed of organic compounds. As shown in this picture, two columns are divided, in one for organic compounds and the other is for inorganic compounds. What do you notice about all the compounds that are classified as example of organic compounds? Did you observe carbon is always present and the hydrogen and oxygen are commonly found in organic compounds? Great! Most organic compounds are contain carbon, hydrogen, and sometimes other elements such as nitrogen, sulfur, oxygen, or phosphorus. All living organisms contains carbon, even bacteria. Our bodies are composed mostly of water, H2O, and it is necessary for us to survive. However, water is an example of an organic compound because it does not contain carbon and it was not formed by living organisms. Carbon dioxide or CO2 is another example of inorganic compounds because it does not contain both carbon and hydrogen. One molecule of CO2 contains one atom of carbon and two atoms of oxygen. There are a total of 3 atoms in one molecule of carbon dioxide or the CO2. There are general classes of organic compounds and its uses. A while ago, we knew that organic compounds are called organic because they are associated with living organisms. These molecules form in the basis of life and are studied in great detail in the chemistry disciplines of organic chemistry and biochemistry. Most of the foodstuffs we consume every day, such as sugar, fats, starch, vinegar, etc., are basically organic compounds. Even though the organic compounds have been known to man since prehistoric times, their study practically began from the 18th century. The term organic compound was coined by Johannes Jacob Berzelius in 1807. So there are 4 main types or classes of organic compounds found in living things. So there are, first, the carbohydrates, the lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. In addition, there are other organic compounds that may be found in or produced by some organisms. All organic compounds contain carbon, usually bonded to hydrogen, and other elements may be present as well. Let's take a closer look at the key types of organic compounds and see examples of these important molecules. Let's explore more about these compounds. Now, we proceed first to carbohydrates. What is carbohydrates? A carbohydrate is an organic compound made of the elements carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. The ratio of hydrogen atoms to oxygen atoms in carbohydrates molecules is 2:1. Organisms use carbohydrates as energy sources, structural units, and for other purposes. Carbohydrates are the largest class of organic compounds found in organisms. Carbohydrates are classified according to how many subunits they contain. Simple carbohydrates are called sugars. A sugar made of one unit is called monosaccharide. Example of this is glucose, fructose, and galactose. Two units are joined together, a disaccharide is formed. A polysaccharide is a long chain of monosaccharides joined together. An example of this one are the starch, glycogen, and cellulose. The functions of carbohydrates are: 1. It acts as a main source of energy. 2. Plants and animals use it for structural purposes. Next, we will be discussing about lipids. What is lipids? Lipids are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. Lipids have higher hydrogen to oxygen ratio than is found in carbohydrates. The three major groups of lipids are triglycerides. Examples are fats, oil, and waxes, steroids, and phospholipids. Certain fatty acids have one or more double bonds in their molecules. Fats that include these molecules are unsaturated fats. Other fatty acids have no double bonds. Fats that include these fatty acids are saturated fats. In most human health situations, the consumption of unsaturated fats is preferred to the consumption of saturated fats. Saturated fats are solid at room temperature and bad for you, while unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature and are better for you. Fats stored in cells usually form clear oil droplets called globules because fats do not dissolve in water. Plants often store fats in their seeds, and animals store fats in large clear globules in the cells of adipose tissue. Lipids are used for energy storage to build structures and as signal molecules to help cells communicate with each other. The functions of lipids are: 1 is to store energy for long term, 2 and waterproof poverty. Now let's proceed to proteins. A protein consists of chains of amino acid is called peptides. A protein may be made from a single polypeptide chain or many have a more complex structure where polypeptide subunits pack together to form a unit. Proteins consist of hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, and nitrogen atoms. Some proteins contain other atoms such as sulfur, phosphorus, iron, copper, or magnesium. Proteins serve many functions in cells. They are used to build structure, catalyze biochemical reactions, for immune response, to package and transport materials, and to help replicate genetic material. The functions of proteins are: cellular structures, control substances in and out of cell, fight diseases. Examples of proteins are hemoglobin in blood, collagen, insulin, keratin, myoglobin, and fibrin. Now, we proceed to nucleic acids. Nucleic acids are the molecules in our cells that direct and store information for reproduction and cellular growth. There are two types of nucleic acids. One is ribonucleic acid or RNA, and two is deoxyribonucleic acid or the DNA. Both nucleic acids are unbranched organic polymers composed of monomer units called nucleotides. These nucleotides are composed of sugar molecule, a nitrogen base, and phosphoric acid. A single DNA molecule may contain several million of the nucleotides, while the smaller RNA molecules may contain several thousands. The DNA carries the genetic information for the cells. Sections of a DNA molecule called genes contain the information to make a protein. DNA serves two main functions. Molecules of DNA can produce other DNA molecules, and RNA molecules are directly responsible for the synthesis of proteins. Now we proceed for our learning tasks. For learning task number 1, choose the letter of the correct answer. Write your answers on a separate sheet of paper. Number 1. Organisms use blank as several energy sources, structural units, and for other purposes, and are the largest class of organic compounds found in organisms. 2. Blank are the molecules in our cells that direct and store information for reproduction and cellular growth. Number 3. Blank are the use of energy storage to build structures and a signal molecule to help cells communicate with each other. 4. They are used to build structure, catalyze biochemical reactions for immune response, to package and transport materials, and to help replicate genetic material. Okay class, that's all for today. See you next time!